Ageism is real, and it totally sucks. If you think it isn't, I've had over 400 heartbreaking conversations that say otherwise. In the last 15 years, I've spoken with professionals in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. People with long, successful careers suddenly finding themselves shut out. No callbacks, no offers, just silence. And these people didn't retire by choice. They were aged out. Today, I'm going to share what I learned from those stories and what you can do if it happens to you. There are more paths than people realize. Some people shift into new industries where their skills may apply. Others can go independent doing consulting, freelancing, or coaching. Some retrain entirely by picking up certifications in totally new professions or industries. Some have to just change their mindset that they're gonna have a different earning potential than they had in their previous career. Some people step back for a while, taking a sabbatical, a mini retirement, while they figure out their new game plan. But one other option that I'm seeing more and more, and I'm encouraging more people to look at, is this, and that could be buying a small business. Welcome to the UnRetired, where you're not done, but you're finally doing what you want. If you're in your late 40s, 50s, or even 60s, you might be thinking about retirement, but not quite ready for it yet. Today, I want to talk about something most people at that stage don't expect. And that's what happens when retirement comes early, but it's not your choice. Like I said, in the last 15 years, I've had over 400 heartbreaking conversations with people who didn't plan to leave their careers, but they were quietly and often permanently pushed out. So let's talk about ageism, what it really looks like, and more importantly, how to take back control of your next chapter. If you're navigating the edge between career and retirement, hit the like and subscribe. Come back every week for real talk about what it means to live the unretired life. All right, let's unpack this. I've seen the effects of ageism up close and personal for 20 years, not through academic research or headlines, but through real personal conversations. In fact, as I said, over 400 of them, with people who were aged out of their careers. These weren't strangers. Many of them were my former colleagues. Some of them were my employees or direct reports. Others were friends in the industry. Over time, I started to see a really clear pattern emerge, especially for those working in tech. I spent most of my career in tech with startups and fast-moving, cutting-edge environments where youth was often equated with innovation. The first signs of ageism that I started seeing were typically in sales roles. These were top-performing professionals in their early to mid 40s, many earning incredible incomes. But when it came time to find their next role, they hit a wall. And I noticed the same thing happening again and again. It was taking longer to get interviews and harder still to even land a job. And because I worked with over 1,200 salespeople in the last 25 years across my career, the volume of these conversations grew quickly. But here's the thing, it wasn't just in sales. I started in sales, but then I started seeing it in every other function: marketing, finance, operations, HR, product engineering, you name it. Individual contributors and executives alike began struggling to find their next role once they hit their mid-40s and then certainly into their 50s. There's a pipeline problem that nobody likes to talk about. There are fewer management roles than there are seasoned professionals. So even if you're really good, there's often nowhere left to go. And when somebody over 50 tries to re-enter the workforce after a layoff, a company change, or whatever the reason, the odds are really stacked against you. So here's how it happens. By my 40s, I was already in the C-suite, sitting in board meetings, reviewing financials. I've seen how these hiring decision made, especially in spreadsheet-driven businesses. Nobody explicitly says this person's too old. But when you're reviewing a list of candidates, everybody sees the same right-hand columns: compensation. And when you can hire somebody with 5 years of experience to do a similar job for 40% less than somebody with 15 years experience, the math unfortunately tends to win. And that's how ageism hides, in budgets, not in words. And that's why these 400 conversations that I had were so loud. Because I wasn't just observing a trend, I was often the one delivering the bad news. I knew the industry, I knew the hiring practices of my competitors and other companies in the space. I knew the shrinking number of roles, and I had to ask people, friends, peers, former employees. Do you want me to be honest with you? Because the honest truth was your career in this field may be over. Some of these people had been out of work for a year, sometimes two. Many weren't even getting interviews anymore. And if they did, they might get to the final round only to be passed over for somebody 10 to 15 years younger. I saw this again and again. And these weren't just people in mid-level roles. I saw this happen at every level. Former VPs, C-level execs. Once they were out of a role, finding their next role was nearly impossible. Not necessarily because of cost, but because of perceptions. Companies wanted somebody with more energy or someone who fit the culture. Let's not sugarcoat it. These are euphemisms for youth. It was ageism, plain and simple. On top of that, the tech world is defined by disruption. Entire job categories have been automated or eliminated. So the number of roles shrink while the competition gets younger and cheaper. But this isn't just limited to tech. I see this across every industry. All these industries have the same dynamics. Even if you're still sharp and capable, the opportunities just aren't there anymore. So I want to ask you, have you felt ageism too? If you have, please drop a comment below and share. When did you first notice your age start to work against you at work or in your job search? I read every one of these, and your story helps others know that they're not alone. So I had these 400 conversations, and then ageism started happening to me. In my 50s, I noticed the volume of recruiter calls slowing down as well. First gradually, then dramatically. By the time I reached my 60s, these calls stopped almost completely. I used to get approached constantly. Now, even when I made it to a late stage interview, I could sense the tone shift. One moment, you're the front runner. The next, you're being told that they went with another direction. And a month later, you check LinkedIn and you see who they hired, and it's somebody 20 years younger. And then it really hit me. After a company I led was acquired, I spent a year banging my head against the same wall that I'd warned other people about. And then I remembered all those 400 conversations. I wasn't gonna become the 401st cautionary tale, so I stepped away. I had the privilege of being financially able to retire, but even if I hadn't, I knew I had to reinvent myself. And I did anyway in retirement. So here's the dividing line that I've seen. Some people accept the reality, they mourn it, and they move on. And those are the ones who often thrive. I've seen former tech sales reps become absolutely fantastic real estate stars, making 7 figures even. I've seen others buy small businesses, pivot to consulting, or jump to completely new industries, real estate development, coaching, even wine importing. If they commit to a new chapter, they often write a great one. On the flip side, there are those that resist. The ones who try and stay in the same role, same industry, expect the same pay scale year after year, they're the ones who are still stuck. Some of them haven't even worked in 5 years, and I know some people that haven't worked in 10. They're waiting for an offer that's never coming, and it literally breaks my heart. This isn't just a story about ageism. It's a story about retirement planning, whether you think you're ready or not. Because for many people, retirement doesn't start when you want it to. It starts when the phone stops ringing. It starts when the interview ends in silence. And it starts when your career ends before you are ready to let it go. But if you're lucky or prepared, that's also when reinvention happens. So in spite the gloominess of ageism, there's also some upside here too. We happen to be living through a generational handoff. Millions of baby boomers are retiring. Many of them own profitable, well-run small businesses that need successors. And these aren't flashy startups or trendy tech ventures. They're HVAC companies, they're dry cleaners, equipment rental shops, landscaping firms, B2B service providers, solid businesses with decades of history, loyal customers, and strong cash flows. And many of them are affordable. Why? Because the owners are ready to retire, and often there's no logical acquirer. The business may be too small for private equity or a strategic buyer, or they may be too traditional for venture capital. And sometimes their kids just aren't interested. And that creates a unique opportunity for professionals with real experience, but who may be struggling to find a role in their former industry. Enter you. If you spent 15 to 20 years working in any kind of leadership or operational role, you already know more about running a business than you probably give yourself credit for. You've dealt with hiring, team management, budgeting, client relations, vendor negotiations, and fire drills of all kinds. You've been on the front line of what makes companies succeed or fail. And that kind of real-world pattern recognition is invaluable when you step into ownership. So how can you make the leap? Well, the good news, you don't have to write a 7-figure check to buy a business. Many business owners are open to seller financing, especially if they're emotionally invested in the business and they want it to go to someone who will care for it. There's also traditional bank loans. SBA financing is also common, particularly for business with healthy profit margins and clean books. So the deals are out there. The financing is available. What's often missing is awareness and, more importantly, confidence. But here's the kicker. I truly believe many people aged out of traditional employment are actually more qualified to run these businesses than even the people who are currently running them. And I say that with respect. After 20 years of executive leadership, I often joke with my friends that you could drop me into a chain of dry cleaners and I'd probably improve it within 6 months, not because I know anything about dry cleaning, but because I know how to run a team, manage cash flow, and build repeatable processes. That's the kind of transferable skill set that all of these seasoned professionals bring to the table. So let me tell you about my own pivot. When I retired from my last full-time executive role, I spent a year considering what I wanted to do next. I looked at investing in or buying several small businesses, and what I realized was that I wasn't just looking for a financial return or an income. I was actually looking for intellectual curiosity. Frankly, I was totally tired of what I'd been doing, the industry that I'd been, even though I was good at it. I wanted to explore something entirely new, something fun to learn. Ultimately, I chose to reinvent myself. And I now work part-time doing something completely different. And it's energizing in a way that my old industry hadn't been in years. And that's the magic of reinvention. It doesn't have to mean stepping down. It can mean stepping into something more aligned with who you've become. Look, if you've been aged out or you sense it's coming, don't let it be the end of your story. Let it be the turning point. Yes, I get it. It's hard. Yes, it's unfair. It's BS. But it also opens the door to options you might never have considered when your calendar was full and the recruiter calls were still coming in. So think about doing something totally different, something that scratches your curiosity, that energizes you again. It could be a new industry, a new role, or owning something of your own. Buying a small business isn't for everyone, but for the right person, it's the most empowering post-career move you can make. So stop waiting for somebody else to give you a job. You give yourself one with ownership, purpose, and control. So if you're ready for your next chapter and you're tired of begging for a seat at somebody else's table, I say, maybe it's time you buy the whole dang table yourself.